Atomic Habits, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results. By James Clear. About this summary. This document provides a comprehensive, chapter-by-chapter summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. It captures every major concept, framework, research example, practical strategy, and key insight from all 20 chapters, the introduction, and the conclusion, organized for easy reference and application. The book is built around a single thesis. That remarkable results come not from dramatic transformations but from the accumulation of tiny, consistent 1% improvements. Clear synthesizes decades of behavioral science, neuroscience, psychology, and biology into a practical 4-law framework for building good habits and breaking bad ones. Document structure at a glance. Part 1, The Fundamentals. The Case for Small Habits and Identity-Based Change, Chapters 1 to 3. Part 2, The First Law, Make It Obvious, Awareness, Implementation Intentions, Habit Stacking, Environment Design, Chapters 4 to 7. Part 3, The Second Law, Make It Attractive, Dopamine, Social Norms, Reframing Cravings, Chapters 8 to 10. Part 4, The Third Law, Make It Easy, Repetition, Reducing Friction, The 2-Minute Rule, Automation, Chapters 11 to 14. Part 5, The Fourth Law, Make It Satisfying, Immediate Rewards, Habit Tracking, Accountability, Chapters 15 to 17. Part 6, Advanced Tactics. Genes, The Goldilocks Rule, Reflection and Review, Chapters 18 to 20. Conclusion and Appendix, The Sawwright's Paradox and Little Lessons from the 4 Laws. Introduction, The Author's Story. James Clear opens with a personal account that anchors the entire book in lived experience. On the final day of his sophomore year of high school, a baseball bat accidentally struck him in the face, causing multiple skull fractures, 2 shattered eye sockets, a broken nose, and a traumatic brain injury severe enough to require a medically induced coma and helicopter transport to a trauma unit. He was not expected to make a full recovery. The recovery was long and uncertain. Clear suffered post-traumatic seizures, double vision for weeks, and required months of physical therapy. He returned to baseball 1 year later only to be cut from the varsity team, a humiliating low point. Yet something shifted in his thinking. Rather than waiting for a breakthrough moment, he began accumulating small, consistent habits: better sleep, an orderly room, structured study, and regular strength training. Over 4 years at Denison University, these compounding micro-improvements produced extraordinary results. He became team captain, earned all-conference selection, was named the university's top male athlete, made the ESPN Academic All-America team, and graduated with the President's Medal. He fulfilled his potential entirely through the power of small habits. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. Clear began writing about habits publicly in November 2012, publishing new articles every Monday and Thursday. Within years he had built one of the world's fastest-growing newsletters, reaching nearly 500,000 subscribers. Coaches from the NFL, NBA, and MLB started sharing his work with their teams. Fortune 500 companies enrolled in his Habits Academy. The book synthesizes biology, neuroscience, philosophy, and psychology into one integrated operating manual. Its backbone is a 4-step model: cue, craving, response, reward, from which the 4 laws of behavior change are derived. These laws govern virtually every human behavior and provide a universal toolkit for change. Part 1, The Fundamentals. Why Tiny Changes Make a Big Difference. Chapter 1, The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. The Aggregation of Marginal Gains. The chapter opens with the story of British cycling, which had endured nearly a century of mediocrity before Dave Brailsford became performance director in 2003. No British cyclist had won the Tour de France in 110 years. One top bike manufacturer had even refused to sell the team their bikes, fearing damage to their brand. Brailsford introduced a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea that if you decompose every element of cycling and improve each by 1%, the cumulative effect is staggering. His team redesigned bike seats, rubbed alcohol on tires for better grip, used heated overshorts to optimize muscle temperature, tested different massage gels, hired a surgeon to teach the correct hand-washing technique, chose the best pillow and mattress for each rider, and even painted the inside of the team truck white to spot tiny dust particles that could degrade equipment. 5 years later, British cyclists won 60% of the gold medals at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. At the 2012 London Games, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. Bradley Wiggins became the first British winner of the Tour de France. Chris Froome went on to win 4 more times. Between 2007 and 2017, British cyclists accumulated 178 World Championships and 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals. The mathematics of 1% improvements. The central mathematical insight of the book. Getting 1% better every day for 1 year produces results that are 37.78 times better. 1.01 to the power of 365 equals 37.78. Getting 1% worse every day for a year reduces performance to nearly zero. 0.99 to the power of 365 equals 0.03. The same asymmetry applies to habits. Positive habits compound in your favor, negative ones compound against you. Clear lists several important compounding effects. Productivity compounds. Automating an old task frees mental space for new challenges. Knowledge compounds. Each new idea connects with existing ideas, multiplying insights. Relationships compound. Small acts of kindness build a broad, trusted network. Stress compounds. Minor anxieties, if persistent, become serious health issues. Negative thoughts compound. Repeatedly telling yourself a limiting story reinforces it. Outrage compounds. Small frustrations accumulate until a single trigger causes an explosion. The plateau of latent potential. Why do habits seem ineffective in the short term? Clear introduces the plateau of latent potential and the valley of disappointment. Progress is not linear, results are hidden below the surface, like bamboo that builds an extensive root system underground for 5 years before exploding 90 feet skyward in 6 weeks. Cancer spends 80% of its development undetectable. Tectonic plates build pressure for millions of years before an earthquake. Similarly, the effort you put into habits is always being stored. You haven't wasted your work, you just haven't reached 32 degrees yet. Breaking through the plateau is the moment outsiders call an overnight success, but it was preceded by years of invisible accumulation. It is not until much later that the full value of previous efforts is revealed. Forget goals, focus on systems. One of the book's most provocative arguments: goals are less important than systems. Goals are about the results you want, systems are about the processes that produce those results. Problems with a goals-first mindset. Winners and losers share the same goals, so goals alone cannot be what differentiates them. Every Olympic athlete wants to win gold. What differs is their system of preparation. Achieving a goal is only a momentary change. Clean your messy room without changing your habits, and it will be messy again soon. You treat a symptom, not the cause. Goals restrict happiness. With a goal-first mindset, happiness is perpetually deferred until the next milestone, creating an either-or framework. Goals conflict with long-term progress. Many runners train hard for a race but stop training the moment they cross the finish line. The goal ends motivation. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. An atomic habit is a small habit that is part of a larger system. Just as atoms are the building blocks of molecules, atomic habits are the building blocks of remarkable results. Chapter 1 Key Takeaways. Getting 1% better every day compounds into a 37x improvement over 1 year. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Small inputs, massive outputs. Results are often delayed until you cross the plateau of latent potential. Focus on systems, processes, rather than goals, outcomes. Bad habits and good habits both compound. Understand the double-edged sword. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. The 3 layers of behavior change. Most people attempt to change habits at the wrong level. Clear identifies 3 concentric layers of change, like an onion. Layer, focus, outcome, outermost. What you get: losing weight, writing a book, winning a championship. Process, middle. What you do: a new gym routine, a meditation practice, a decluttering system. Identity, innermost. What you believe, your worldview, self-image, and core assumptions. Outcome-based habits start on the outside and work in. I want to lose 20 pounds, so I'll start a diet. Identity-based habits start from the inside and work out. I'm the type of person who prioritizes health. The direction of change matters enormously. The power of identity-based habits. Clear gives the cigarette example. Person A, offered a cigarette, says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." Person B says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." The difference is profound. Person B has made an identity shift. Smoking is now part of a former self. Identity drives behavior through a reinforcement loop. Every action is a vote cast for the type of person you are becoming. No single vote wins the election, but the accumulation of votes, habits repeated hundreds of times, eventually produces an overwhelming majority. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. The word identity comes from the Latin roots essentitas, being, and identidem, repeatedly. Your identity is literally your repeated beingness. You only believe what you believe because you have proof, evidence accumulated through repeated behavior. The two-step process for identity change. Clear's simple framework. Step 1. Decide the type of person you want to be. Step 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Work backwards from results to identity. Ask, who is the type of person that could achieve what I want? A person who wants to write a book is probably someone who is consistent and reliable. So shift your focus from the outcome, writing a book, to the identity, becoming consistent and reliable. Each habit then becomes evidence for that identity. Examples of identity statements. I'm the kind of doctor who gives each patient real time and empathy. I'm the kind of manager who advocates for her employees. These beliefs shape every small decision. The feedback loop and its dark side. Habits shape identity. Identity shapes habits. This is a two-way feedback loop. But identity can also trap you. I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible with money. I have a slow metabolism. The more deeply these stories are tied to your identity, the harder they are to update. Progress requires unlearning. The best version of yourself requires continuously editing your beliefs, not hardening them. Chapter 2 Key Takeaways. The 3 layers of change: outcome, process, and identity. The most effective change starts with identity, not outcomes. Every repeated action casts a vote for your identity. 2 steps. Decide who you want to be, then prove it with small wins. Becoming the type of person is more durable than achieving an outcome. Chapter 3. How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Thorndike's puzzle boxes and the law of effect. In 1898, psychologist Edward Thorndike placed cats in puzzle boxes and recorded how long each trial took. A cat might take 160 seconds to escape in the first trial, 30 in the second, eventually escaping in 6 seconds after dozens of attempts. The useless movements faded, the lever-pressing behavior was reinforced. Thorndike formalized this as the law of effect. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences are likely to be repeated. Those followed by unsatisfying consequences are not. Why the brain builds habits. A habit is a behavior that has become automatic through sufficient repetition. During the trial and error phase, neurological activity in the brain is high. As a solution is found and repeated, neural pathways are strengthened, Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. Activity in the brain decreases as the behavior becomes automatic. The habit loop runs on autopilot, conserving energy for new challenges. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up conscious attention. Without established habits, every decision requires deliberate effort. The person who has not established basic financial habits must consciously decide whether to save each month. The person with automatic savings habits never faces that decision. The 4 stages of a habit. All habits follow the same 4-stage loop. Stage. Description. 1. Cue. A signal that triggers your brain to initiate a behavior, a piece of information predicting a reward. The cue can be a time, a place, an emotion, an event, or another person. 2. Craving. The motivational force behind the habit. You don't crave the habit itself, you crave the change in state it delivers: relief, excitement, connection, satisfaction. Without craving, there is no motivation to act. 3. Response. The actual habit, the thought or action you perform. Whether the response occurs depends on the level of friction and your level of motivation. If the behavior requires more effort than you're willing to expend, it won't happen. 4. Reward. The end goal of every habit. Rewards satisfy the craving and teach the brain which actions are worth repeating. They close the feedback loop. The 4 stages divide into the problem phase, cue plus craving, recognizing that something needs to change, and the solution phase, response plus reward, taking action and completing the change. Practical example of the full loop. You sit down at your desk, cue. You feel bored and understimulated, craving to feel entertained. You open social media, response. You feel temporarily satisfied, reward. The reward associates the cue with the behavior, making it more likely to be triggered next time. The 4 laws of behavior change. From the 4 stages, Clear derives 2 sets of laws, one for building good habits, one for breaking bad ones. To create a good habit. To break a bad habit. First law, make it obvious. Inversion, make it invisible. Second law, make it attractive. Inversion, make it unattractive. Third law, make it easy. Inversion, make it difficult. Fourth law, make it satisfying. Inversion, make it unsatisfying. These 4 laws provide a universal framework for change. Whether you're trying to exercise more, save money, improve a relationship, or develop a creative practice, the answer can always be found by asking, how can I make this obvious? How can I make this attractive? How can I make this easy? How can I make this satisfying? Chapter 3 Key Takeaways. Habits form through repeated trial and error when a behavior is reinforced by a satisfying consequence. The 4 stages of every habit: cue, craving, response, reward. Cue and craving equals problem phase. Response and reward equals solution phase. The 4 laws of behavior change are the practical application framework. Invert each law to break a bad habit. Part 2, the first law, make it obvious. Chapter 4, the man who didn't look right. The brain is a prediction machine. Clear opens with the story of a paramedic who, at a family gathering, took one look at her father-in-law and said, "You need to go to the hospital now." Hours later, he was in surgery for a life-threatening arterial blockage. She couldn't explain what she saw, but her years of experience had trained her brain to recognize patterns invisibly, automatically. Similar non-conscious expertise exists across fields. Military analysts identifying enemy missiles on radar by an almost imperceptible difference in timing. Museum curators detecting forgeries by feel alone. Radiologists predicting strokes from scans before any obvious sign is visible. The brain continuously catalogs patterns and encodes lessons without conscious awareness. This same mechanism powers our habits. We don't notice the treats on the kitchen counter, the phone in our pocket, or the remote next to the couch, yet they trigger cravings and behaviors. Because habits run beneath consciousness, we must become aware of them before we can change them. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Pointing and calling. Japanese railway operators use a safety system called pointing and calling. At each signal, station approach, and timetable check, operators physically point at objects and verbally announce what they observe. This multi-sensory engagement raises the level of awareness from automatic to conscious. The system reduces errors by up to 85% and accidents by 30%. Clear draws a direct parallel to personal habit change. Verbalizing your intentions and observations raises their salience. Saying aloud, "I'm about to eat this biscuit, and I don't need it," creates a moment of deliberate awareness that can interrupt the automatic habit loop. The Habit Scorecard. The Habit Scorecard is a practical tool for gaining awareness of your current habits. The process. List every habit you perform in a typical day, from waking to sleeping. Mark each habit as plus, serves your long-term goals, works against your goals, or equals, neutral. Do not judge or change anything yet, simply observe. The purpose is awareness, not immediate action. Most habits have become so automatic that we don't realize we're performing them. By making them visible, we create the conditions for intentional change. Chapter 4 Key Takeaways. The brain continuously builds non-conscious predictive models from repeated experience. Because habits are automatic, we must first make them conscious to change them. Pointing and calling raises habits from unconscious to conscious by verbalizing observations. The Habit Scorecard reveals the full landscape of your current automatic behaviors. Awareness always precedes change. Chapter 5, the best way to start a new habit. Implementation intentions. A 2001 British study divided 248 people into 3 groups to build exercise habits. Group 1 tracked exercise only. Group 2 tracked exercise and read material on health benefits. Group 3 tracked exercise, read the same material, and also wrote down a specific implementation intention in the format. During the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day, at time, in place. Results. Groups 1 and 2 exercised at rates of 35 to 38%. Group 3 to 91%, more than double. The motivational material made no meaningful difference. The specific plan made all the difference. Hundreds of subsequent studies confirm this effect across domains including recycling, studying, sleep, and smoking cessation. The implementation intention formula. I will, behavior, at, time, in, location. Examples. I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 6 p.m. in my bedroom. I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. Why does this work? It eliminates the decision-making moment and removes vagueness. I'll try to exercise more is easy to rationalize away. I will run at 6 a.m. at the park on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is a specific trigger that removes ambiguity. Habit stacking. Habit stacking pairs a new habit with an existing one. The formula: after, current habit, I will, new habit. This technique, developed by B.J. Fogg as part of his Tiny Habits program, leverages the Diderot effect, the tendency for one action to trigger a chain of subsequent actions. The existing habit becomes an unambiguous, reliable cue for the new one. Examples: after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into workout clothes. After I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for. After I close my laptop for lunch, I will do 10 push-ups next to my desk. Habit stacks can be chained into longer sequences. Morning coffee, right pointing arrow, meditate, right pointing arrow, right to-do list, right pointing arrow, begin first task. The key is selecting the right anchor habit. It must have the same frequency as the desired habit, must not occur at a time when you're likely to be occupied, and must be immediately actionable. Chapter 5 Key Takeaways. Implementation intentions, specific time plus location, more than double follow-through. Vagueness is the enemy of habit formation. Eliminate it with specifics. Habit stacking anchors new habits to existing ones using the formula: after X, I will Y. Chain multiple habits into a stack that flows naturally through the day. The best cue for a new habit is an existing habit of equal frequency. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. The power of choice architecture. Dr. Anne Thorndike redesigned the hospital cafeteria at Massachusetts General Hospital without speaking to a single employee or visitor. She simply rearranged where drinks were stored, adding water to all refrigerators and placing water baskets near food stations. She didn't remove soda, she just added a convenient alternative. 3 months later, soda sales dropped 11.4% and water sales rose 25.8%. Behavior changed without any motivational intervention. In 1936, psychologist Kurt Lewin captured this insight in an equation. Behavior equals F, person, environment. The environment is not a backdrop to our decisions, it actively shapes them. As Hawkins Stern found in 1952, 45% of Coca-Cola sales come specifically from end-of-aisle racks. We buy what we see. Vision as the dominant sense. Humans have approximately 11 million sensory receptors. 10 million are dedicated to vision. Visual cues are the primary driver of behavior. Designing your environment means designing what you see, and what you don't see. Practical applications. Put your pill bottle next to the bathroom faucet if you want to take medication nightly. Place your guitar stand in the middle of the living room, not in the closet. Fill a display bowl with fruit on the kitchen counter rather than in the crisper. Fill several water bottles each morning and distribute them around the house. In Amsterdam in the 1970s, researchers found that homes where the electricity meter was in the main hallway, visible, used 30% less electricity than homes where the meter was in the basement, hidden. The behavior didn't change because people were more motivated, it changed because the feedback was more obvious. One space, one use. The context of an environment builds habitual associations over time. Your brain links behaviors to locations. The kitchen is for eating, the gym is for exercise, the bed is for sleeping. When you mix contexts, you mix habits, and the easy ones win. Practical strategies. Create distinct spaces for work, study, exercise, entertainment, and rest. Use new environments to establish new habits, different cafe, fresh corner of a room. Insomniacs who stop using their bed for anything except sleep associate the bed with sleeping faster. If space is limited, use different furniture or digital devices for different purposes. Chapter 6 Key Takeaways. Environment shapes behavior more powerfully than motivation or willpower. Make cues for good habits obvious and visible in your environment. People choose based on what is most visually accessible, design for this. New environments provide a clean slate for new habits, free of old cues. One space, one use, context becomes a powerful cue over time. Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control. The Vietnam Drug Study. In 1971, Congressman Robert Steele and Morgan Murphy discovered that over 15% of U.S. soldiers in Vietnam were heroin addicts, a shocking figure. Researcher Lee Robbins was tasked with tracking these soldiers when they returned home. The result defied every prevailing assumption. Only 5% of returning soldiers became re-addicted within a year, only 12% within 3 years. 9 out of 10 who had been heroin users stopped completely. The reason: in Vietnam, soldiers were surrounded by powerful cues for drug use, constant stress, peer culture, easy availability, and social isolation from home. When those cues disappeared, as they returned to a completely different environment, the habit disappeared with them. When the context changed, the habit dissolved. Contrast this with the typical rehab pattern. A person becomes addicted at home, goes to a clinic devoid of triggers, gets clean, then returns to the original home with every original cue still intact. Result: 90% relapse. Self-control is a short-term strategy. Research consistently shows that disciplined people are not fundamentally different from those who struggle. They simply spend less time in tempting situations. Self-control is most easily exercised when you rarely need to use it. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than resist it. A habit, once encoded, leaves a permanent neural trace. Even after years of absence, the cue can reactivate the craving. Patty Olwell quit smoking for years, then returned to riding horses, the original context in which she had started smoking. The craving returned immediately. Inversion: make it invisible. The most reliable way to break a bad habit is to remove its cue from the environment. Leave your phone in another room to reduce distraction checking. Unfollow social media accounts that trigger envy. Move the television out of the bedroom. Stop reading reviews of technology you're trying to stop buying. Put the video game console in a closet after each use. These interventions do not require willpower in the moment, they require a single environmental decision in advance. Removing the cue removes the craving. The habit fades without the trigger. Chapter 7: Key Takeaways. Environment is more powerful than willpower in sustaining or breaking habits. Once a habit is encoded, its neural trace persists even through long periods of absence. Self-control is most sustainable when it's rarely needed. Reduce exposure to temptation. To break a bad habit, remove its cue. Make it invisible. One-time environmental changes create automatic long-term results. Part 3: The Second Law: Make it attractive. Chapter 8: How to Make a Habit Irresistible. Supernormal Stimuli. In the 1940s, Nobel Prize-winning ethologist Nico Tinbergen discovered that newly hatched herring gull chicks would peck at cardboard beaks with red dots just as eagerly as at their own mother's beak, and they pecked faster at larger dots. When Tinbergen created an artificial beak with 3 oversized red dots, the chicks went into a frenzy. Similarly, grey-lag geese will attempt to roll a volleyball back into their nest. When it rolls away, their instinct to retrieve eggs is activated by the exaggerated stimulus. These supernormal stimuli are exaggerated versions of real cues that trigger a stronger response than reality. Humans are equally susceptible. The modern food industry creates supernormal food stimuli by engineering the perfect combination of salt, sugar, and fat, the bliss point. Dynamic contrast, crunch plus cream, crispy plus smooth, keeps the brain engaged beyond the natural satiation signal. Junk food is a supernormal version of nutrition. The same principle applies to social media: infinite likes and validation, online pornography, infinite novelty, and advertising, impossibly idealized imagery. Our Paleolithic brains were not built for these engineered stimuli. The dopamine-driven feedback loop. Dopamine is the neurochemical at the heart of craving. In 1954, James Olds and Peter Milner blocked dopamine in rats, who then lost all will to live. They wouldn't eat, drink, or mate. When dopamine was restored and amplified, mice poked their noses in boxes 800 times per hour to trigger dopamine surges. The key insight: dopamine is released in anticipation of reward, not just at its receipt. Gambling addicts show a dopamine spike just before placing a bet. Cocaine addicts spike when they see the powder, not after taking it. The wanting precedes the getting, and the wanting is often stronger than the getting. This is why the mere sight of a cue can trigger powerful cravings. The brain allocates far more neural circuitry to wanting than to liking. 100% of the nucleus accumbens activates during wanting, only about 10% activates during liking. Desire is a more powerful driver than satisfaction. Temptation bundling. Temptation bundling links an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Ronan Byrne, an engineering student, hacked his stationary bike so that Netflix would only work while he was cycling above a certain speed. The reward, enjoyable TV, was bundled with the habit he needed to build, exercise. The combined formula with habit stacking. 1. After, current habit, I will, habit I need. 2. After, habit I need, I will, habit I want. Practical examples. Only listen to your favorite podcast while exercising. Only read novels while on a treadmill. Only get a pedicure while processing overdue emails. Only watch sports after completing sales calls. This leverages Premick's principle. More probable behaviors reinforce less probable ones. You'll come to associate the necessary habit with the pleasurable reward that follows. Chapter 8 Key Takeaways. The more attractive an opportunity, the more likely it becomes a habit. Dopamine drives craving through anticipation. The wanting is stronger than the getting. Supernormal stimuli, junk food, social media, etc., exploit our evolved reward systems. Temptation bundling pairs something you need to do with something you want to do. Formula: after current habit, I will needed habit. After needed habit, I will wanted habit. Chapter 9 The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. The Polgar Chess Experiment. In 1965, Hungarian educator Laszlo Polgar decided to test his theory that genius is made, not born. He found a like-minded partner, Clara, and they agreed to raise their children to become chess grandmasters. Their home was saturated with chess, books, pictures of grandmasters, constant practice, tournament competition, and meticulous record-keeping. Their 3 daughters, Susan, Sophia, and Judith, found this life attractive, not burdensome. They loved chess. The results: Susan became a grandmaster. Sophia became a world champion at 14. Judith became the youngest grandmaster in history at age 15, beating Bobby Fischer's record, and remained the world's top-ranked female chess player for 27 years. The habits were sustainable because they were valued and celebrated by the culture around them. The 3 groups we imitate. Humans are herd animals. We evolved in tribes where belonging was survival. As a result, social norms are among the most powerful drivers of behavior. Clear identifies 3 groups whose habits we tend to adopt. The close, family, friends, and immediate peers. We imitate their body language, vocabulary, attitudes, and routines without realizing it. A groundbreaking 32-year study found that a person's likelihood of becoming obese increases by 57% if a close friend becomes obese. The many, the broad tribe, community, or culture. As Solomon Asher's classic conformity experiments showed, nearly 75% of subjects agreed with an obviously incorrect answer when surrounded by others who gave that answer. The normal behavior of the tribe overpowers individual judgment. The powerful, those with status, prestige, and admiration. We imitate successful people because we want to achieve what they've achieved. We mimic marketing strategies, creative techniques, communication styles, and daily rituals of those we admire. This insight has a powerful practical implication. Joining the right group is often the single most effective habit strategy available. Join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. And make sure you already have something in common with the group. When you already have something in common with a group, shared interests, shared values, shared identity, adopting their habits feels natural rather than forced. The habit feels like something people like me already do. This is why nerd fitness, which combines exercise with geek culture, has been so effective for its audience. Chapter 9 Key Takeaways. Social norms are among the most powerful invisible drivers of behavior. We imitate 3 groups: the close, the many, and the powerful. Join a group where your desired behavior is already the default. Having something in common with a group makes adopting their habits feel natural. A shared identity sustains habits better than individual willpower. Chapter 10. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. Surface cravings versus underlying motives. Every habit has a surface-level craving and a deeper underlying motive. The craving to check Instagram is a surface expression of the deeper motive to win social acceptance and approval. The craving to smoke is a surface expression of the deeper motive to reduce stress and anxiety. The craving to play video games is a surface expression of the deeper desire for achievement and status. Core underlying human motives include: conserve energy, obtain food and water, find love and reproduce, connect and bond with others, win social acceptance and approval, reduce uncertainty, achieve status and prestige. Modern habits are simply modern solutions to these ancient desires. Your current habits are not the only possible solutions to these motives, they are just the solutions you learned. Understanding this opens the door to replacing bad habits with better ones that serve the same underlying need. The role of predictions and feelings. Every behavior is preceded by a prediction. You observe a cue, your brain immediately runs a simulation. If I do X, then Y will happen, and generates a feeling, the craving. Life feels reactive, but it is actually predictive. The cause of your habits is the prediction that precedes them. A craving is a sense that something is missing, the gap between your current state and your desired state. This gap motivates action. When the habit fills the gap, the craving is satisfied. This is why addressing the underlying motive, the gap, with a better habit is more sustainable than trying to resist the surface-level craving. Reframing, make it unattractive. Author Alan Carr's approach to quitting smoking systematically reframes every cue associated with smoking. You think smoking is about socializing, but you can socialize without smoking. You think smoking relieves stress, but it damages your nervous system. By the end of the book, the habit appears not just unnecessary but actively unattractive. Clear's broader reframing principle, shift from have to get to. I have to wake up early for work becomes I get to wake up early for work. I have a job, stability, a reason to be up. This is not denial, both versions are true. But the frame determines whether you approach the habit with resistance or willingness. The motivation ritual strategy. Deliberately pair a difficult habit with something you already enjoy, creating a condition-positive association. Boxer turned writer Ed Latimore discovered that putting on his headphones, even without playing music, triggered deep focus because he had always worn them while doing focused work. Chapter 10 Key Takeaways. Every craving is a surface expression of a deeper underlying motive. Your habits are modern solutions to ancient human needs, but not the only solutions. The cause of a habit is the prediction, feeling, that precedes it. Reframe habits to highlight benefits and reduce perceived burden. Create motivation rituals. Pair something enjoyable with a difficult habit. Part 4, The Third Law, Make It Easy. Chapter 11, Walk slowly but never backward. Motion versus action. Jerry Uelsman, photography professor at the University of Florida, divided students into two groups. The quantity group, graded solely on the number of photos submitted, and the quality group, graded on the excellence of one single photo. The result at semester end, all the best photos came from the quantity group. While the quality group speculated about perfection, the quantity group was in the darkroom, experimenting, failing, learning, improving. 100 attempts produced one exceptional photograph. One carefully planned attempt produced mediocrity. Clear distinguishes between motion, planning, strategizing, preparing, which never produces results on its own, and action, actually performing the behavior that delivers an outcome. Motion is comfortable because it feels like progress without the risk of failure. But only action produces change. The most effective form of learning is practice, not planning. How habits form. Repetitions, not time. Neuroscientists call the process of habit formation long-term potentiation, the strengthening of neural connections through repeated activation. Musicians develop enlarged cerebella. Mathematicians grow more grey matter in the inferior parietal lobule. London cab drivers have larger hippocampi. Habit formation literally reshapes the brain. The popular myth that habits take 21 days to form is unfounded. What matters is not time but frequency, the number of repetitions. If you do something twice in 30 days, it is far less automatic than if you do it 200 times in 30 days. The question is not, how long does it take? But, how many reps does it take? Once you cross the habit line, the point at which a behavior becomes more automatic than effortful, the habit is formed. All the work before that point was investment, not waste. Chapter 11 Key Takeaways. Motion, planning, never produces results by itself, only action does. We stay in motion to avoid the risk of failure, not to make progress. Habit formation is driven by frequency, repetitions, not time. Each repetition strengthens specific neural pathways in the brain. The goal is to accumulate enough reps to cross the habit line into automaticity. Chapter 12, The Law of Least Effort. The Natural Tendency Toward Ease. Jared Diamond's observation in guns, germs, and steel. Agriculture spread 2 to 3 times faster across the east-west axis of Europe and Asia than along the north-south axis of the Americas and Africa. The reason, east-west routes share similar climates, allowing the same crops to spread without adaptation. The law of least effort operated on a civilizational scale. Farmers naturally chose the path of least resistance. Human behavior follows the same principle. When choosing between similar options, we naturally gravitate toward the one requiring less effort. This is not laziness, it is energy efficiency. The brain conserves energy wherever possible. Every habit requires energy. The less energy a habit requires, the more likely it is to be performed consistently. The bent hose metaphor. Trying to force yourself through willpower to do a difficult habit is like trying to force water through a bent hose. possible, but exhausting and unsustainable. The better approach: remove the bend, friction, and let behavior flow naturally. Friction reduction strategies. Place your gym kit out the night before so the morning decision requires zero effort. Keep healthy snacks at eye level and processed food out of sight. Chop vegetables on weekends and store them in ready-to-eat containers. Design your workspace so essential tools are immediately accessible. Put your guitar where you can see it, not in the cupboard. Japanese manufacturing in the 1970s applied this insight through lean production, redesigning workspaces to eliminate wasted motion. The result: Japanese TVs required 5 times fewer service calls than American ones. Addition by subtraction: remove obstacles and performance improves without any change in motivation. Priming the environment. Oswald Nuckolls introduced his resetting the room strategy. After every activity, he restores the space to its default state in preparation for the next. Television remote replaced, pillows arranged, blanket folded, trash from the car disposed of, toilet wiped while the shower warms up. The result: his environments are always ready for the next action. He described himself as proactively lazy. The principle: prepare the environment for future use, not just clean up after past use. Lay out the skillet, cooking spray, and plate the night before breakfast. This is friction reduction at its most practical. Chapter 12 Key Takeaways. The law of least effort. We naturally gravitate toward the option requiring least work. Reduce friction for good habits, increase friction for bad ones. Environment design is a more powerful lever than motivation. Prime your environment for future use. Prepare before you need to act. Addition by subtraction. Remove obstacles and performance improves automatically. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Decisive moments. Choreographer Twyla Tharp begins every day by putting on her workout clothes, walking outside, and hailing a cab to the gym. She considers the ritual complete the moment she tells the driver where to go. Everything after, the workout itself, is easy once the first decisive moment is navigated. Research indicates that 40 to 50% of our daily actions are performed out of habit. But the influence of habits extends far beyond their direct execution. Habits shape the choices that follow them. Sitting down on the couch is a decisive moment that makes watching TV more likely. Changing into workout clothes is a decisive moment that makes exercising more likely. Decisive moments are forks in the road, small choices that set the trajectory for the next hour or evening. Master the decisive moments, and you master the direction of your day. The 2-minute rule. When starting a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This is not the whole habit, it is the gateway habit that leads into the broader routine. Full goal. 2-minute version. Read before bed each night. Read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga. Take out my yoga mat. Study for class. Open my notes. Run 3 miles. Tie my running shoes. Eat a healthy breakfast. Get out a bowl. Write in my journal. Write 1 sentence. The genius of this rule: it makes starting so easy that there is no reason to delay. And starting is usually the hardest part. Once you've laced up your shoes, the run tends to happen. Once you've opened your notes, studying tends to follow. The 2-minute rule also reinforces identity. Showing up at the gym for 2 minutes every single day builds the identity of a person who doesn't miss workouts. As Clear writes, you're not focused on getting into shape. You're focused on becoming the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. For particularly resistant habits, use habit shaping. Break the overall goal into progressive phases, mastering each 2-minute beginning before advancing to the next level. Clear gives examples for becoming an early riser, going vegan, and starting to exercise, all broken into 5 graduated phases. Chapter 13 Key Takeaways. 40 to 50% of daily actions are habit-driven, and habits shape subsequent conscious choices. Decisive moments are small choices that set the trajectory for hours ahead. The 2-minute rule. New habits should start with less than 2 minutes of action. Starting is the hardest part. The 2-minute rule eliminates the starting obstacle. Standardize before you optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't yet exist. Chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Commitment devices. In 1830, Victor Hugo was contractually bound to deliver a novel but had spent the entire preceding year avoiding writing. His solution: he locked all his clothes in a chest and asked an assistant to keep them. With nothing suitable to wear outdoors, he had no choice but to stay in his study and write. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was delivered 2 weeks early. This is a commitment device, a choice made in the present that controls behavior in the future. Commitment devices work by making it more difficult to deviate from the desired path than to stay on it. Purchase food in individual packages rather than bulk to reduce overeating. Voluntarily join a casino's banned list to prevent future gambling. Pay for a yoga session in advance to make not attending more costly. Email a respected entrepreneur to set up a call, making cancellation embarrassing. Use an outlet timer to cut internet access at a fixed bedtime. One-time decisions with compound returns. Some actions require a single decision but deliver ongoing benefits. These high-leverage choices require minimal effort but lock in future behavior automatically. Domain. High-leverage one-time actions. Nutrition. Buy a water filter. Use smaller plates. Sleep. Buy blackout curtains. Remove TV from bedroom. Productivity. Unsubscribe from emails. Turn off notifications. Delete social media apps. Finance. Enroll in automatic savings. Set up automatic bill payments. Health. Buy good shoes. Get vaccinated. Happiness. Move to a friendly neighborhood. Get a dog. Clear argues that implementing even half of these one-time decisions would transform most people's lives within a year, without any further thought about habits. Automating good behavior. Technology is the ultimate commitment device. John Henry Patterson's invention of the cash register in the 1870s automatically prevented employee theft. It made ethical behavior the only available option. He bought two for $50 each. His business went from losing money to making $5,000 profit in 6 months. Modern equivalents: auto investing, payroll deductions, website blockers, meal delivery services, medication auto refill services. These technologies take decisions out of the moment, eliminating the opportunity for willpower to be tested and lost. Chapter 14 Key Takeaways. Commitment devices lock in future good behavior by making deviation more costly. One-time decisions that automate recurring behavior offer compound returns. Automation is the most reliable form of habit, no willpower required. Make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible through structural design. Technology is the most powerful modern commitment device. Part 5, The Fourth Law, Make It Satisfying. Chapter 15, The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. The Safeguard Soap Study. In the late 1990s, public health researcher Stephen Luby worked in Karachi, Pakistan, one of the least livable cities in the world. Over 60% of residents lived in squatter settlements with no sanitation infrastructure. Diarrhea, pneumonia, and impetigo were rampant. Luby discovered that most residents knew handwashing was important, but didn't do it consistently. The problem was not knowledge, it was consistency. Luby partnered with Procter & Gamble to distribute Safeguard soap, a premium product that lathered beautifully, smelled great, and created a satisfying clean mouth sensation. Within months, diarrhea fell 52%, pneumonia fell 48%, impetigo fell 35%. 6 years later, 95% of households that had received the free soap still maintained the handwashing habit, without any soap being provided for over 5 years. The habit had become permanent. The lesson: what made handwashing stick was not education but immediate sensory satisfaction. The great smell and the lather made the habit immediately pleasurable. The cardinal rule: what is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. The first 3 laws increase the odds that a behavior will be performed this time. The fourth law, immediate satisfaction, increases the odds it will be repeated next time. Positive emotions cultivate habits. Negative emotions destroy them. The challenge: humans evolved in an immediate return environment. Our ancestors had to respond to threats and opportunities right now. Modern life is a delayed return environment. Today's exercise pays off in months. Today's saving pays off in decades. But the brain is wired to prioritize the present over the future, what economists call time inconsistency. This creates a fundamental asymmetry. Bad habits tend to have immediate rewards. The cigarette relieves stress now, causes lung cancer in 10 years. Good habits tend to have immediate costs and delayed rewards. The workout is painful now, produces fitness later. The brain's bias toward the present makes good habits harder to sustain. Immediate reinforcement strategies. The solution is to engineer immediate satisfaction for good habits. Open a savings account labeled European Holiday. Every time you skip a purchase, transfer the equivalent amount. The immediate pleasure of watching savings grow becomes the reward. Use a satisfaction-enhancing product, premium soap, minty toothpaste, to make a necessary habit more enjoyable. Give yourself a small, identity-consistent reward immediately after completing a habit. Critical caveat: rewards must reinforce, not contradict, the identity you are building. Rewarding exercise with junk food creates conflicting identities and cancels out progress. Rewarding exercise with a massage reinforces the identity of someone who cares for their body. Chapter 15 Key Takeaways. We repeat what is immediately satisfying and avoid what is immediately punishing. The brain prioritizes the present. Immediate rewards are essential for habit formation. Good habits often have delayed rewards. Bridge the gap with immediate reinforcement. Engineer a moment of satisfaction at the end of every good habit. Rewards must be consistent with the identity you're building. Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits every day. The paperclip strategy. In 1993, 23-year-old stockbroker Trent Diesmond began each morning with 2 jars on his desk, one filled with 120 paper clips, one empty. Each sales call meant transferring 1 paperclip. Every morning I would start with 120 paper clips in 1 jar and keep dialing until I had moved them all. Within 18 months, he was generating $5 million for the firm. By 24, he was earning $75,000 a year. The paperclip strategy illustrates the power of visual measurement. Watching the pile grow provides immediate, tangible evidence of progress, a form of continuous, built-in reward. Similar visual measurement techniques include food journals, workout logs, progress bars, and the classic Benjamin Franklin method of tracking 13 personal virtues in a daily booklet. Habit tracking. A habit tracker is any system that creates a visual record of whether you performed your habit. The most basic form is marking an X on a calendar for each day you complete the habit. Jerry Seinfeld reputedly used this method to maintain his daily joke-writing streak, calling his approach, "Don't break the chain." Habit tracking leverages all 4 laws simultaneously. Obvious, the visual record becomes a cue reminding you to act. Attractive, watching your streak grow motivates continuation. Easy, tracking itself is minimal effort. Satisfying, crossing off the X provides immediate, genuine pleasure. Research confirms that people who track progress on goals, weight loss, quitting smoking, lowering blood pressure, are significantly more likely to improve. One study found that people who kept daily food logs lost twice as much weight as those who did not. Practical guidelines for effective tracking. Automate tracking wherever possible: credit card statements, Fitbit data, calendar. Limit manual tracking to your most critical habits, consistency over breadth. Record immediately after the habit. After I hang up from a sales call, I will move 1 paperclip. Never miss twice. Streaks will break. The key rule: never miss twice. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new, bad, habit. Imperfect performance is infinitely better than no performance. The bad workouts are often the most important ones. They maintain the compound gains of previous sessions and, crucially, they reaffirm the identity of someone who shows up. Clear introduces Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Optimizing for the tracked metric can lead to distorted behavior. Track as a guide, not as an end in itself. Chapter 16 Key Takeaways. Visual measures of progress, paper clips, streaks, logs, provide immediate satisfaction. Habit trackers leverage all 4 laws of behavior change simultaneously. Don't break the chain. Momentum is a powerful force. Never miss twice. 1 missed day is an accident. 2 begins a new habit. Track as a guide, not as a goal. Goodhart's law. Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. The cost of immediate failure. In 1981, Harvard negotiator Roger Fisher proposed putting a nuclear launch code inside a capsule implanted next to the heart of a presidential aide. To launch, the president would have to personally kill the aide with a butcher knife, making the immediate human cost of the decision viscerally real. Pentagon officials objected. This would distort the president's judgment. He might never push the button. Fisher considered this the point. The inversion of the 4th law is to make a bad habit immediately unsatisfying. Pain is an effective and rapid teacher when consequences are swift and certain. Poor behavior that is followed by immediate, tangible negative consequences gets corrected rapidly. Accountability partners. The simplest way to add immediate cost to a bad habit is to create social accountability. When someone is watching, the stakes change. The knowledge that failing will make you appear untrustworthy, lazy, or unreliable to someone you respect creates a powerful deterrent. Clear provides the example of comedian Margaret Cho's Song A Day, challenge shared with a friend, mutual accountability that made daily creative output far more consistent than either would have achieved alone. The habit contract. A habit contract is a written agreement stating specific commitments, tracking methods, and consequences for failure, signed by the person and one or two accountability partners. Entrepreneur Brian Harris created a detailed contract with his wife and personal trainer, specifying his diet goals, daily tracking requirements, and penalties for non-compliance, dressing formally every day, paying $200 to his trainer, wearing a rival college's hat. The explicit social stakes transformed his consistency. The habit contract works because it makes the costs of failure public and painful, not private and forgettable. Chapter 17 Key Takeaways. Making a bad habit immediately unsatisfying accelerates behavior change. Social accountability creates immediate costs for failure. An accountability partner makes you less likely to procrastinate or give up. A habit contract adds explicit, public consequences to bad habits. The more local, concrete, and immediate the consequence, the greater the behavior change. Part 6. Advanced Tactics, From Good to Great. Chapter 18. The Truth About Talent, When Genes Matter and When They Don't. Playing the Right Game. Michael Phelps and Hicham El Guerrouj both wear the same inseam length despite a 7-inch height difference. Phelps has short legs and a long torso, ideal for swimming. El Guerrouj has long legs and a short torso, ideal for distance running. If they switched sports, both would fail at elite level regardless of their work ethic, because their genetic profiles are optimized for their respective environments. The same principle applies to habits and careers. Habits that align with your natural dispositions require less effort to sustain and produce greater satisfaction. The secret is not to find the most popular habit, but to find the one that fits your biology, temperament, and inclinations. Genes and the Big Five. Genes influence virtually every aspect of behavior. The Big Five personality traits, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, all have biological components traceable from birth. A person high in agreeableness has higher natural oxytocin levels. A person high in neuroticism has a more sensitive amygdala. These traits nudge people toward certain habits naturally. The message is not fatalistic. Genes clarify where to focus hard work, not whether to work hard. They indicate areas of natural advantage and disadvantage, helping you find the game where you can win. Genes cannot be easily changed, which means they provide a powerful advantage in favorable circumstances and a serious disadvantage in unfavorable ones. Create your own game. When you cannot find a game that favors you, create one. Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert, was not the funniest comedian nor the best artist. But combining above-average drawing with above-average writing with specific business insight created a unique combination that no one else occupied. His advice: everyone has at least a few areas in which they could be in the top 25% with some effort. Stack enough of them together and you become rare. Key diagnostic questions to find your natural game. What feels like fun to me but like work to others? What makes me lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns than average? What comes naturally to me without conscious effort? Chapter 18 Key Takeaways. Habits are easier and more satisfying when aligned with natural abilities. Genes predispose but don't predetermine, they clarify where to focus effort. Pick the right game, or create one, where your strengths are advantages. Combine multiple average skills to create rare, hard-to-replicate expertise. The Big Five personality traits shape which habits feel natural and sustainable. Chapter 19. The Goldilocks Rule, How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work. Steve Martin and Just Manageable Difficulty. At age 10, Steve Martin began selling guidebooks at Disneyland. He progressed to the magic shop, started performing in small clubs, built a 5-minute act, then 10 minutes, then 20. He spent a decade adjusting material, working as a TV writer, landing appearances on talk shows. After 18 years of relentless practice, he became one of the most successful comedians in history, touring 85 cities in 90 days, playing to crowds of 45,000. The key to Martin's consistency was the nature of his progression. He always expanded by a manageable amount, a minute or two of new material at a time, keeping just enough victories to maintain confidence and just enough new challenge to prevent boredom. The Goldilocks Rule. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks at the edge of their current abilities. Not too easy, boredom, not too hard, anxiety. Just right, at approximately 4% beyond current ability, producing a state of flow. The Goldilocks Zone, a 50-50 split between success and failure. Enough winning to feel satisfaction, enough struggle to maintain desire. This is the optimal zone for sustained engagement. The greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom. As habits become automatic, they also become boring. The outcome becomes predictable. The challenge disappears. This is when most people abandon their habits in search of novelty, the eternal cycle of starting and stopping. The professional's advantage is not superior passion but superior tolerance for boredom. When it stops being exciting, they show up anyway. The distinction between professionals and amateurs: professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals take action even when the mood isn't right. You have to fall in love with the process, including its most boring, repetitive phases. Chapter 19 Key Takeaways. The Goldilocks Rule. Peak motivation occurs at the edge of current ability. The sweet spot is a 50-50 mix of success and struggle. Boredom is the greatest threat to habit maintenance, not failure. Variable rewards reduce boredom by introducing unpredictability. Professionals stick to the schedule even when bored. Amateurs don't. Chapter 20. The downside of creating good habits. Automaticity and complacency. Habits are the foundation of mastery, until they become so automatic that attention and improvement cease. A chess player who has not automated basic moves cannot think at a higher level. A surgeon who has not automated the incision cannot focus on the complex variables of surgery. But once a skill reaches the automatic phase, performance tends to plateau or even slightly decline. The habit is now good enough, and good enough stops you from becoming great. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. The solution is to layer deliberate practice on top of established habits. Master one element, automate it, then advance to the next challenge. Mastery is the process of progressively layering improvements, each habit unlocking the next level of performance, each mastered skill revealing a new frontier. Reflection and review. Coach Pat Riley created the Career Best Effort (CBE) program for the LA Lakers in 1986. Every player's performance was tracked against their own historical baseline and against other players at their position. Players were asked to improve their CBE score by at least 1% over the season, for every measurable action including unsung hero, plays like diving for loose balls. The result: the Lakers won back-to-back NBA championships. CBE ensured that habits were improving, not merely being maintained. Clear's personal reflection system. Annual review, December. Count key habits for the year, then answer, what went well? What didn't? What did I learn? Integrity report, June. Review core values, assess whether daily habits align with them, identify where standards can be raised. Without reflection, rationalization replaces awareness. We lie to ourselves about our performance. We repeat the same mistakes. Periodic review provides the external mirror that keeps habits improving rather than merely running. Keep your identity small. Paradoxically, the same identity that helps you build a habit can eventually prevent you from growing beyond it. The tighter you cling to an identity, the more brittle you become. If being an athlete is your entire identity, injury can be devastating. If being the CEO is your identity, selling the company can destroy your sense of self. Investor Paul Graham's principle: keep your identity small. The more flexible and principle-based your identity, the more resilient you are to change. Redefine flexibly. I'm an athlete, right pointing arrow. I'm someone who is mentally tough and loves physical challenges. I'm a soldier, right pointing arrow. I'm someone who is disciplined, reliable, and great on a team. The core values survive even when the specific role disappears. A lack of self-awareness is poison. Reflection and review is the antidote. Chapter 20 Key Takeaways. Automaticity enables mastery but can also produce complacency. Habits are necessary but not sufficient for mastery. Deliberate practice must continue. Reflection and review prevents the gradual drift of unchecked habits. Annual and half-yearly reviews align daily habits with long-term identity and values. Keep your identity small and principle-based to remain adaptable as circumstances change. Conclusion: the secret to results that last. Clear closes with the ancient Greek Sorites paradox: can one coin make a person rich? If you add a penny to a pile, the person is not richer. Another penny, still not rich. But at some point, the scale tips. The same logic applies to atomic habits. One tiny change will not transform your life. But 1,000 tiny changes, accumulated over years, compound into something remarkable. The holy grail of habit change is not a single 1% improvement but 1,001% improvements stacking up across every domain. Throughout the book, Clear has profiled Olympic gold medalists, award-winning artists, elite athletes, life-saving physicians, and landmark comedians, all who mastered their craft through small, sustainable, consistent improvements. Different circumstances, identical principles. Success is not a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It is a system to improve, an endless process to refine. The 4 laws of behavior change are not a finite program to complete. They are a continuous cycle to return to whenever a habit needs attention. When a habit feels hard to remember, make it obvious. When it feels hard to start, make it attractive. When it feels too difficult, make it easy. When it feels unrewarding, make it satisfying. Round and round, always looking for the next way to get 1% better. The secret to results that last is to never stop making improvements. Tiny changes, remarkable results. That is the power of atomic habits. The complete 4 laws, reference guide. Law 1, make it obvious. Habits scorecard, implementation intentions, I will, X, at, time, in, place, habit stacking, after, X, I will, Y, environment design, reduce exposure to bad habit cues. Law 2, make it attractive. Temptation bundling, join a culture where desired behavior is normal, create motivation rituals, reframe mindset to highlight benefits. Law 3, make it easy. Reduce friction, prime the environment, master the decisive moment, 2-minute rule, automate habits, increase friction for bad habits, use commitment devices. Law 4, make it satisfying. Immediate reinforcement, make doing nothing enjoyable, visual savings, habit tracker plus don't break the chain, never miss twice, accountability partner, habit contract. Appendix, little lessons from the 4 laws. Clear distills a final set of philosophical insights from the 4-stage model of cue, craving, response, and reward. Awareness comes before desire. You cannot crave something you have not yet noticed. A craving only emerges once a cue is observed and assigned meaning. Happiness is the absence of desire. Happiness is not achieving pleasure, it is not wanting to change your current state. When you observe a cue but feel no urge to act, you are at peace. We chase the idea of pleasure, not pleasure itself. The anticipation of reward, not the reward, drives behavior. This is why desire is so often more vivid than satisfaction. Emotions drive behavior. Every decision is, at its root, an emotional decision. People with damage to emotional brain centers can list rational reasons to act, but cannot act. Craving always precedes response. Suffering drives progress. All progress comes from the desire to change your current state. Dissatisfaction, properly channeled, is the engine of improvement. Our expectations determine our satisfaction. Satisfaction equals liking, wanting. If your expectations consistently outpace reality, you will always be dissatisfied. Managing expectations is as important as managing outcomes. The professionals stick to the schedule. Anyone can be motivated when inspired. What distinguishes the remarkable from the average is the ability to act in the absence of inspiration, when bored, tired, or discouraged. Keep your identity small. The more tightly you define yourself by any single role, belief, or achievement, the more brittle you become. Flexible identities built on principles rather than roles survive change. Master reference, all strategies at a glance. The complete habit toolkit, strategy, how to apply it, habits scorecard, list all daily habits, mark each plus or equals based on long-term impact. Start with awareness before change. Implementation intention, right, I will, behavior, at, time, in, location, specificity doubles follow through. Habit stacking, right, after, current habit, I will, new habit, chain multiple habits together. Environment design, make cues for good habits visible. Remove cues for bad habits. Design your space to make defaults healthy. Reduce exposure. Remove bad habit cues from your environment. One-time environmental decisions prevent repeated willpower battles. Temptation bundling. Pair a needed habit with a wanted reward. Only do the enjoyable thing while doing the necessary thing. Join a culture. Find a group where your desired behavior is already normal and you share something in common with members. Motivation ritual. Pair something you enjoy with a difficult habit to condition a positive association. Reframe mindset. Shift from have to get to. Focus on benefits of avoiding bad habits, not their appeal. Reduce friction. Decrease steps between you and good habits. Prepare your environment in advance, prime it. 2-minute rule. Downscale any new habit to its 2-minute version. Master showing up before mastering the full habit. Commitment device. Make a present-day choice that limits future options, lock up clothes, prepay class, set up website blockers. Automate. Use technology to make good behavior automatic, auto savings, subscription services, outlet timers. Immediate reinforcement. Give yourself a small, identity-consistent reward immediately after completing a habit. Habit tracker. Track your habit streak visually, calendar, paper clips, app. Never break the chain. Never miss twice. After any lapse, return to the habit immediately. 1 miss is an accident. 2 starts a new bad habit. Accountability partner. Ask someone to observe and hold you accountable. Social scrutiny changes behavior. Habit contract. Write, sign, and share a specific commitment with consequences for failure. Deliberate practice. Once a habit is automatic, layer deliberate improvement on top. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. Annual review. Each year, count key habit outputs and ask, what went well? What didn't? What did I learn? Integrity report. Each 6 months, revisit core values and ask, am I living in alignment? How can I raise the standard? Explore, exploit. Spend early career exploring broadly, 80% exploration. Once you find something promising, exploit it deeply. Goldilocks calibration. Continuously adjust habit difficulty to stay in the zone of just manageable challenge. Identity first thinking. Ask not, what do I want to achieve? But, who do I want to become? Build habits that cast votes for that identity. Key concepts glossary. Atomic habit. A tiny, regular practice that is part of a larger system. Not just small, the source of incredible compounding power. Aggregation of marginal gains. The philosophy of seeking 1% improvement in every area, trusting the cumulative effect to be transformative. Habit loop. The 4-stage feedback cycle of cue right pointing arrow craving right pointing arrow response right pointing arrow reward that drives all habitual behavior. Cue. Any piece of information that triggers the brain to initiate a behavior. Can be a time, location, emotional state, other person, or preceding action. Craving. The motivational force behind a habit, the desire for the change in state the habit delivers, not for the habit itself. Response. The actual habit, the thought or action performed in response to the craving. Reward. The outcome that satisfies the craving and teaches the brain whether to repeat the behavior. Identity-based habits. Habits built from the inside out, starting with who you want to become rather than what you want to achieve. Outcome-based habits. Habits built from the outside in, focused on achieving a specific result. Implementation intention. A specific plan in the format, I will, X, at, time, in, location, that dramatically increases follow-through. Habit stacking. Linking a new habit to an existing habit using, after, X, I will, Y. Diderot effect. The tendency for one purchase, or behavior, to trigger a chain of related subsequent behaviors. Temptation bundling. Pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do to make the necessary habit more attractive. Supernormal stimulus. An exaggerated version of a natural cue, junk food, social media, that triggers a stronger than normal response. Dopamine-driven feedback loop. The neurochemical cycle in which anticipation of reward, not just reward itself, drives motivation and action. Law of least effort. The principle that, given similar options, humans choose the one requiring least energy. 2-minute rule. Start any new habit with a version that takes less than 2 minutes to do. Commitment device. A present-day choice that controls future behavior by making deviation more costly. Cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. Habit tracker. Any system providing a visual record of whether you performed your habit, calendar X, paper clips, log. Never miss twice. The recovery rule. 1 missed day is an accident. The key is to return immediately before missing again. Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Don't confuse the metric with the goal. Habit contract. A written, signed commitment to specific habits with explicit consequences for non-compliance. Plateau of latent potential. The period before breakthrough results, where effort is stored invisibly until a threshold is crossed. Goldilocks rule. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks at the edge of their current abilities. Explore, exploit trade-off. Early career, explore broadly. Once strengths are identified, exploit deeply. Big 5 personality traits. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, all with biological bases that influence which habits feel natural. Deliberate practice. Intentional, focused work on the specific areas at the edge of your competence, beyond automated habit performance. CBE, career best effort, Pat Riley's system of tracking each player's full performance and asking for 1% improvement per season. Final overview, the 4 laws at a glance. To create a good habit. To break a bad habit. First law, make it obvious. First law inversion, make it invisible. Fill out the habit scorecard. Reduce exposure to bad habit cues. Use implementation intentions. Remove triggers from your environment. Use habit stacking. Design environment for obvious cues. Second law, make it attractive. Second law inversion, make it unattractive. Use temptation bundling. Reframe mindset. Highlight costs of the bad habit. Join a culture where desired behavior is normal. Associate the habit with negative feelings. Create a motivation ritual. Third law, make it easy. Third law inversion, make it difficult. Reduce friction. Increase friction between you and the bad habit. Prime the environment. Use a commitment device. Master the decisive moment. Use the 2-minute rule. Automate your habits. Fourth law, make it satisfying. Fourth law inversion, make it unsatisfying. Use immediate reinforcement. Get an accountability partner. Make doing nothing visible. Savings account. Create a habit contract with consequences. Use a habit tracker. Never miss twice. Tiny changes. Remarkable results. James Clear, Atomic Habits.